I never thought working quietly from my own home would turn me into a target. But the moment I opened my mailbox that morning, I knew something was very wrong. Inside was a thick white envelope, no stamp, no return address, just 3 letters printed in bold red ink across the front. HOA. My stomach tightened. I hadn't thrown loud parties. I hadn't built anything illegal. I hadn't even painted my house the wrong shade of beige. All I'd done was set up a small home office. I tore the envelope open right there on my front porch, sunlight still warming my coffee mug in my hand. And then I read the first line. Notice of violation, illegal commercial activity. I laughed, actually laughed, because my illegal business was a laptop, a desk, and a headset. No clients coming over, no signs, no noise, just me working. But as I kept reading, the laughter disappeared. The HOA was fining me $250 per day for operating a business from my residence. And if I didn't cease operations immediately, the fines would escalate. My hands started shaking. This wasn't a warning. This was a threat. And it was signed by one person, Karen. She was the head of the Architectural and Compliance Committee, the same woman who once complained that my trash cans were visible for 3 extra minutes after pickup. I went inside, sat at my desk, the same desk apparently breaking the law, and reread the notice again. They claimed a neighbor reported frequent business activity at my home, which was funny because the only person who ever watched my house closely enough to say that, well, was Karen herself. The next day, I emailed the HOA asking for clarification. The response came back within minutes, not from the board, not from a lawyer, from Karen. She said she had personally observed repeated work-related behavior at my property and that home offices were not permitted unless explicitly approved. I stared at the screen. Observed? From where? From her walks? From her car? From behind her curtains? That's when something clicked. This wasn't about rules. This was about control. So instead of panicking, I started documenting everything. I printed the HOA bylaws, every page, every amendment, every footnote, and that's when I found it. Buried deep in the rules, written in boring legal language no one ever reads, was a clause that changed everything. Home occupations are permitted provided they do not create external evidence of business activity, including but not limited to signage, customer traffic, or excessive noise. I looked around my house. No signs, no visitors, no noise. I was fully compliant, and Karen knew it. So I replied politely, citing the exact clause, paragraph number, and page. I thought that would end it. It didn't. 2 days later, another notice appeared. This one was worse. They were now accusing me of unauthorized electrical usage and possible zoning violations. That's when I realized she was fishing, throwing accusations at the wall and hoping something would stick. So I did something she didn't expect. I invited her over, formally, in writing. I requested a compliance inspection on record during normal business hours with another board member present. Silence. No response. Instead, the fines continued. $250, $500, $750. My account balance on the HOA portal started climbing like a scoreboard. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was scared, but because I was angry. So I took things one step further. I requested the HOA meeting minutes for the past 6 months, and that's when I found the smoking gun. In one meeting, Karen had complained about people working from home making the neighborhood look unprofessional. Not violating rules, looking unprofessional. That single sentence told me everything. This wasn't enforcement. This was bias. I printed it, highlighted it, saved screenshots. Then I contacted a local real estate attorney. I didn't even finish explaining before he interrupted me. "Let me guess," he said. "Selective enforcement?" Exactly. He told me HOA fines must be applied consistently or not at all. So we pulled public records, and guess what? 3 other homes on my street had visible home offices. One neighbor ran a bookkeeping business, another did graphic design, another had a full-blown Etsy operation. None of them had fines, only me, because only I'd annoyed Karen before by questioning a rule at a meeting months earlier. The next HOA meeting was packed because I came prepared. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't raise my voice, I didn't insult anyone, I simply asked questions. Why was I fined but others weren't? Why was the rule interpreted differently for me? Why did meeting minutes show personal opinions instead of violations? Karen tried to interrupt me. The board president told her to wait. I showed the clause, the records, the comparisons. The room went silent. Finally, the HOA's lawyer, who looked very uncomfortable, cleared his throat. He said the fines were under review. 2 days later, I received an email. All fines reversed, account balance cleared, misinterpretation of guidelines. No apology. But I wasn't done. I filed a formal complaint for harassment and selective enforcement. And 2 months later, Karen was removed from the compliance committee. She still lives here, still walks the neighborhood, but now she doesn't look at my house anymore. And every morning I sit at my desk, my perfectly legal home office, open my laptop and smile, because the HOA tried to fine me for working quietly and ended up exposing themselves instead. If you're dealing with an HOA nightmare, remember this. Read the rules, document everything, and never assume the loudest voice is the right one. Because sometimes the best way to fight back is to let them hang themselves with their own paperwork.